Welcome, everybody, to the show. This is Counterclipping Show number 239 for September 22nd, 2025, and I'd like to thank everybody for coming out this evening. I don't remember. I got a license for the song off of an audio website, so that is why. Thank you. You know who you are. So, in any event, we are drinking. I have screwed the camera angle up, so we are drinking Glendronach 12, and it is bottled at 43%. It is very respectable, and I don't believe we'll be finishing it this evening, but you never know what might occur. So, big shout out to the patrons of Ardwulf's Lair, and especially Mal, who has joined us at the hero level. Thank you, Mal. I have not updated the ticker to reflect that, so I apologize for that, but we will get that done for next week. The title card at the end is, in fact, updated. So, we have, I don't have a Discord link. If anybody wants the Discord link, put it in the chat, and I'll throw it in. But I do not have one prepared because I had to do a bunch of stuff before the show. Our topic tonight is solitairing wargames that aren't explicitly designed to be solitaire wargames. So we will get into that lately. No, this is not, I don't think, PD at all. Maybe a tiny amount, but not very much. In any event, it is good. So, before we get started, let me remind everybody to please do like the video, give me a thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. If you'd like to help support the channel, there's a bunch of links to do that in the video description. Starting with the Patreon, thank you, patrons. Without your support and encouragement, we would not be able to keep doing this, and I mean that very literally. And our good friends at Noble Knight Games, the official sponsors of the Counterclipping Show, from whom we will hear in a bit. So, what else do we got? Well, before we get any further, let's say hello to Bill Simone, Board Gaming Geezer, Bayonet Brent from the Armchair Dragoons, Bob Meyer, Brent McCabe, Cardboard Commander, Christopher Smith, Dale Brady, Danny Seckery, Dave Poirier, David Zell, Eric Schaefer, Garrison Venn, HUN644 New, the legend himself appears again, Fucko is here, Jeff Anderson, Jeff Beeler, Jeff T, Jeff Wesovich, Joe Hammond, Joe Okabayashi, Joe Perez is in the house, Joe Mentum, John Mogg, John MC, Jonathan Dyer, Kyle Harris, Kai Sharp, Lee Grant, Mark Dennehy, Marty Sample is here, Meandering Mike is in the house, Michael Evanzini, Mike H, Neil Badke, Panzer Division Lair, I saw a Pico Armor in here earlier, thanks for stopping by, Paul Dangle, Perigee, Rob Johnson, Scott Bell, Sean Sullivan, Sofa King, Steve Parker, Tony Mammal, Vicky, welcome back to the show, and William Aarons. So everybody, once again, thanks for coming out this evening. Steve Parker is soloing a margarita. That sounds completely okay to me. I love a good margarita. I'm less of a fan of frozen margaritas, to be honest. I like a regular good old-fashioned margarita. Drew Detterer is here as well. Drew, welcome back to the show. So, we're not really, well, we'll get into the topic in a bit. I have a number of news items to cover. Let's get started with what I think will be like a segment, but a brief segment moving forward, which is new shit that arrived this week. We got La Bataille de Calme from Against the Odds magazines. This looks very nice. It came with a huge quantity of stuff. I didn't really pay much attention when I ordered it. It went through Kickstarter, so I was like pleasantly surprised when a bunch of stuff showed up. It looks terrific. I was just like, yeah, shut up. Here's some money. Apparently it was about $65, judging from the MSRP on the cover. Also this week, a role-playing product showed up, The Sword of Cepheus 2nd Edition. I did not know this was going to be a digest, and this is what I'm talking about when I say the logo really should pop on the cover. Can you read that in this shot? I bet you can't, because I can barely read it right here. So the game is cool. I have already given it a look because I got the PDF too, but unfortunately the logo does not pop. Maybe most people are buying this stuff for in just digital. I don't know. Top shelf is a must for any tequila concoction from Steve Parker. I'm going to disagree with you on that, but maybe our definitions of top shelf differ. I think that a good, but not necessarily top shelf tequila is adequate for a good margarita. Now, if you are going to drink the tequila neat, then yes, you need top shelf tequila. I like Don Julio Añejo, which I first tried when I was in Mexico, and it is terrific. And I bought 4 bottles of it and brought them back to the States on 2 different airplane trips. And to my grave disappointment, you can get it in Ohio. So even here in Ohio, you can get Don Julio Añejo, which means wherever you're at, if you like tequila, it is a fabulous tequila and easily good enough to drink neat out of a Glencairn just like this. So I cannot vouch for the Reposado or the Blanco, but I will vouch for the Añejo. There's an extra Añejo too. It's hundreds of dollars. I have not tried it. But I'm cool with this. I like the game system. I have no issues with the interior art. I have no issues with the cover art. I just think the logo doesn't pop on the cover. It is altogether a minor complaint. So I will agree that tequila is dangerous, but lots of people have had a bad alcohol experience, right? My bad alcohol experience was not with tequila, it was with scotch, and that's what kept me away from scotch for a long time. I'm pleased to observe that I've gotten over this personal issue with scotch. So I guess we can close this. Where's that damn stupid thing with the notes? We don't have the comments on screen anymore. We'll see if I can get that turned on and or tweaked so that it actually works. Today, also in news, today is 21 days of no tobacco. That's no smoking, no dipping, no cigars, no nothing. We had a difficult time for a while there, and we are back on the freedom train now. So I like gin, but I've never really had a bad experience with gin. I like gin because I like to drink gin, not straight because that's crazy, but like in gin cocktails, gin's great. But a gin tequila, martini, I can do gin martinis, no problem. But I haven't really had a bad experience with gin. Let me put it that way. I have been drinking responsibly for many, many years now at this point. So, So Garrison Ben says, blended is not the same as a good, heavily underlined single malt. I agree. They are not the same, but there's nothing wrong with drinking blended scotch, blended malts. I'm not sure I've ever had sloe gin. I'm like past the barrier now of, for me, the barrier time is like that day when I quit. If I can go the day, I'm doing okay. And if I can go 2 days, I'm doing pretty good. And if I can go 3 days, I am not using tobacco. This has been very difficult. But overall, I'm not necessarily suggesting it's been extremely difficult this time. I just kind of made up my mind, look, it's fucking time to stop again. So, we have in fact stopped. So everybody has had a bad experience with rum, especially 151, which is gross anyway. So, we're still vaping, but I'll take that and I'm down to 3 milligrams in this thing. So it's really not too bad. We are clipping, by the way, Italian campaign still. I did not in fact finish it last week because I did too much talking. So the other piece of news, and this one will take a while, is the GMT update that was provided to us, there we go, last week by the fine folks at GMT. So as usual, if you want to read the whole thing, go read the whole thing. I'm going to hit the highlights. So, a message from Gene up front. Some details. There are apparently some openings at the weekend of the warehouse, which is coming up on October 16th through the 19th. So that's not very far away. So get in on that if you want to go. That is, of course, in Hanford, California. So, Danny Seckery. For those who don't know, I guess I'll talk about this. I actually meant to put this in the news. There is a free tier of the Patreon, so you are not obligated to send me any money every month. And I have been posting some stuff, mostly, for the patrons, free and paid. If you are not terribly interested in Traveler stuff, maybe, turn the notifications off or something. Because that's what I've been posting. As I've been working towards getting RPG Digest off the ground, I am preparing a major video series. I have at this point scripted and recorded the audio for 2 episodes in the inaugural video series over at RPG Digest, but I haven't done the graphics yet. So that is the delay at this time, but we've still got a lot to do. So, all right. So anyway. Games over the weekend. Here's David Siskin's Weekend at the Warehouse Geek List on BGG, if you're interested in that. We'll talk about Herman Lutman's new game, A Hell So Terrible, Verdun 1916, in a moment when we talk about the new stuff and the other new stuff. Operations Update. They are making progress on improving their direct-from-the-printer international shipping. Shipping is in progress now, and they are in watch and learn mode. Those shipments have gone out, and they are already seeing customers around Europe reporting that their games have arrived. Let's close that. Yes, the inaugural series will be based on the solo rules, the solo second edition rules. FYI. So I'm like kind of building that out in Obsidian, and I don't want to like talk about this the whole show, but I'm building that out in Obsidian so that I can just like click a link. Oh, we have a ship encounter. Click ship encounters table. Boom. We roll the dice. Boom. We know what's going on. So a lot's going into this, and I don't promise that it will be imminent, but it is, it'll be available at some point in the not terribly distant future. Let's hope in the next 30 days or so. But yeah, solo is a key component of this. I wanted to work with like stuff that's published and you can get and things like that without necessarily doing like a ton of my own stuff. All right. So they have charged for the Batch 2 games on September 15th. You have until Friday, which was last Friday, so it's too late now, to get to any new P500 orders. Or new orders for the previous batch that they charged for. The games in Batch 2 that were charged are China's War, Combat Commander Minor Nations, Combat Commander Europe 5th printing, Combat Commander Mediterranean 3rd printing, Combat Commander Resistance 2nd printing, and Combat Commander Europe Med 20th Anniversary Edition, the cover of which is really sharp, and I will show it to you shortly because it's in this update. Also, Cross Bronx Expressway and Hubris, a game about the successors to Alexander's Empire that looks extremely promising. We'll talk about a bunch of this below, but we have seen not we, but GMT has seen occasional problems with the shipping and billing addresses. So when you get a minute, go check yours out and make sure that it is correct. I have not observed that problem, but I did notice a weird thing where it was like trying to pull an old credit card. So good idea to periodically go in and check your account and make sure everything is okie dokie anyway. Steve Parker quit smoking after 10 years in 1976 and never looked back. His dad spent 5 years bedridden from smoking-related emphysema. I grew up among people that smoked, and my dad still smokes cigarettes. My brother still smokes cigarettes. My sister, my mom, and my aunt are now vaping off because this thing is way too complicated. So they go to the gas station and buy the disposables, but that's whatever. It's better than smoking. So I grew up with it, and yet I didn't smoke until I was like 40. So that's called being an idiot, folks. Don't do that. All right, Jeff Beeler has ordered Cross Bronx Expressway through the FLGS, and that's probably smart for Canadian fans, actually. It looks like a really promising game. I would like to play it. All right, so beginning with the next charge, all customers in China and the Republic of Korea will be able to get the same direct, much lower rates as the customers in Japan, so cool for them. For all international customers, make sure you're using the direct shipping option for your country or region. The direct rates are cheaper. And they will all avoid the U.S. tariff surcharge, which to me is a couple bucks. I don't care too much. But hey, if you save a couple bucks, save a couple bucks, right? International P500 orders only. All direct orders after the price changes will be at retail price and fulfilled from the U.S., not direct from China. So that does kind of incentivize folks to get their pre-orders in, to order these games through the pre-order program rather than necessarily waiting, because if you like buy it later from GMT, even if it's on sale, you might get hit with a tariff. Perfidious Albion says the cancer seeds are already firmly planted. Maybe, but you know what? I can't fix that, so I can only fix moving forward. I cannot decide what I did 10 years ago. I can only decide what I'm doing today. All right, proofreaders wanted from Director of Development Jason Carr. There's a form here. You can fill that out and become a proofreader. I will zoom out for the very nice Combat Commander 20th Anniversary Edition cover. I think this is really nice. And the cool thing here is that it's there's a whole story about this. The artist's name is Howard Brody, and he sketched this in 1945, seeing some GIs illuminated by a flare. And that's kind of awesome. So, and the cover looks really cool. So I am very pleased with the cover. All right, Wolfpack optional rules free download. Mike Bertolucci and co-developer Bruce Mansfield has designed some optional rules that's available free for download, so check that out. There's a podcast from the designer of Cross Bronx Expressway, Non-Breaking Space. Yeah, a little bit. I can totally understand it. Now, I completely get it, right? I mean, I did not take this as you lecturing me, right? But like I said, I can only fix what I could actually fix. So, yeah. See, I had a cigar, and then the next thing I knew, I started smoking again. So I'm going to be staying away from the cigars, even though I still have some. All right, check the GMT website recent editions section for articles. That's down at the bottom if you scroll all the way to the bottom. The GMT Talk website, Talk to Jim Day. We, of course, beat them to it by talking to him on the Chit Show not very long ago at all, and Jim is a fabulous guest as always, so check that show out if you have not done so already. All right, here's the back of the box for Commands and Colors Napoleonics of the Grand Battles. The fans of Commands and Colors have been waiting for this for a good long time. This is basically the epic battle thing where you combine boards and play it with a senior commander and subsidiary commanders and all that. It's pretty cool. Although I haven't done a Napoleonics epic battle, to be honest. I have done it in Ancients and in Memoir 44. The Memoir 44 experience was bad, as I've talked about before. All right, designer interviews. GMT Talk talked to our illustrious friend of the channel, Mr. Stigler himself, designer of the very warmly received by Swords and Bayonets. The Player's Aid talked to Mark Herman, designer of the upcoming Army of the Potomac, among thousands of other things. And the War Room talked, and I guess I have not watched the video, so I got to find out why Jester is not doing the War Room anymore, but that is unfortunate. But, if that's what he's got to do, that's what he's got to do. Have talked to Herman Letman, so keep up with GMT Online. We don't need to really look at any of that. Digital games. There's a Space Corp digital update. There is a Saratoga digital update and a Mr. President digital update. And Mark Herman's Rebel Fury is still live on Steam for Mac and PC, so check that out if you have not done so already. All right, new P500 editions. There are 4 things here, of which 2... actually, only one is an actual reprint. So the first one is A Hell So Terrible by Herman Letman. Verdun, 1916. We'll have a look at that. And I'm just going to pull these open and we'll figure that out. The next item was an instantaneous order by me. Barbarossa, Typhoon, 2nd edition. This was, Little Birds were talking about this. But it might be my favorite game in that series, actually, and I'm fascinated by this campaign in particular. So I really like that they're going to redo it in a fancy new edition. I will 100% buy it. It has already been P500'd by me. There is a 3rd printing of Combat Commander Pacific coming out and a 2025 replacement counter sheet. We will look at a bunch of this. So, Hell So Terrible simulates Operation Gericht, the German assault on Verdun in 1916. This is, if we look at the actual product page, we will see a map, which we cannot zoom into, but it is a point-to-point map. This is a solitaire game, and it's described here as a tower defense, but instead it's tower offense. This sounds clever to me. There are a couple games like that already. The Mission and Jihad, the first Jihad, are actually both like that, in a States of Siege type of way. And I don't know that this is particularly States of Siege-like, but this looks very promising. If you're interested in World War I, there's a lot of very interesting things that occurred in World War I, fascinating military history. And Herman, of course, is a designer that we can count on. Typhoon 2nd edition. This, of course, is the original cover. Glad to see this coming back. Components, we'll see if this is what it includes, but 3 maps, 4 maps, 3 11x17 cards, 5 counter sheets, and a ton of paper. So this is it's gonna be a very burly box. So, I like the built-in timer of Operation Typhoon. It's Operation Typhoon in general. It's not just Typhoon, this specific Typhoon in particular. I just think this specific Typhoon game works pretty well. I've played Guderian's Blitzkrieg a couple of times, or Guderian's Blitzkrieg 2, I should say, and I thought it was fascinating because the Germans it's a puzzle for the Germans, right? They have a timetable. They got stuff to do, and they have to have it done by a as quickly as possible, or they are going to get hurt by the inevitable Soviet counterattack. I agree. It was the first game in the series, although there is a predecessor with the East Front series from 3W. And that these EFS games do lean on that a little bit, but this is the first one to be released formally in the East Front series. It is absolutely the one that is most in need of an update. So I am positive there will be a new cover for Typhoon. They don't have it yet. That's all. Supposedly they're after Typhoon, they're going to work on the 1942 stuff. So if that actually happens, I will be the happiest person in the world. Well, I don't know about 3 or 4 years. Actually, they're moving fast on this stuff at this point because they've got a lot of the details of the things that need to change in the older games nailed down. I do think this will probably take a little longer than Army Group South, but we'll see what happens. But I would be more than surprised if they didn't do another cover. Combat Commander Pacific, we've seen that before. I'm not going to really talk about it. You know what's in it if you're interested. And the 2025 replacement counter sheet, which so far will include replacement counters for By Swords and Bayonets, Here I Stand, Next War Iran, Red Storm Baltic Approaches for King and Country, which is the Last 100 Yards Volume 5, American Revolution Tri-Pack number 2, Fields of Fire Deluxe, the update kit for that, I, Napoleon, Time for Trumpets, and Mark Simonich's 40 series, whatever that means. This will probably get added to as time goes on, and I would not expect this sheet to go to the printer until 2026 for obvious reasons. But we'll see what happens. And apparently, the note that the Battle for Normandy replacement counters, which I think are going to be replaced on their own, are not on this list. So we'll see. That might actually change. I'm not sure. All right. So back to the update. So get in on any of these if you are interested in them. I definitely will get the counter sheet for obvious reasons, and I have already ordered Typhoon 2nd Edition. All right, teaser P500s, a new block game set in the ancient world. That makes it sound like it is not something for Commands and Colors Ancients. A deluxe edition of one of their most popular 19th century games. I don't have any inside information on this at all. I will guess that it is the Napoleonic Wars, which desperately needs a deluxe edition because it's a fabulous game. A fast-playing 2-player CDG set in Vietnam. I thought, oh, that's got to be Combat Commander Vietnam, but that's already on this list, so it's probably not that. And a simple rule set for one of their popular wargaming series, and I'm guessing that is Simple Great Battles of the American Civil War. So we will see, but I am probably right about the 2 that I have guesses on. I usually don't say the guess out loud if I think I'm full of shit. So, all right, coming events. Cary, North Carolina. The Armchair Dragoons Fall Assembly has made it to the GMT newsletter. Fantastic, Brant. Now, if you could only get them to not release the monthly newsletter as soon as you release Tuesday Newsday, that would be fantastic. GMT Fall Weekend at the Warehouse, October 19th through the 25th in Hanford, California. There's information on that here. Czech ConsimCon, which I believe is in Prague, October 17th through the 19th. BotosCon 2025 in New Westminster, British Columbia, which is November 6th through the 9th. Texas Broadside Wargaming Weekend, November 14th through the 16th. AuckCon, November 21st through the 23rd, and this is in Auckland, New Zealand, I assume. Okay. Let's see if there's anything else here. All right, so this is the digital Saratoga. It looks pretty good, but I'm just going to get it anyway. Paths of Glory has been added to Rally the Troops. That's cool news for Paths of Glory and Rally the Troops fans. The WargameLeague.com website is going to combine all of the 19XX 7-inch ladders into one posting. I have no knowledge or information about this website, so a bunch of stuff is included, and there's going to be a tournament, which Mark 7-inch has included a prize, and it sounds like it's going to be cool. All right, there's an updated PDF solo rules for 1862, which I do have, actually, although I have not played. Here's a bunch of 3D printing files available for from Nerd Workshop, so check that channel out if you have a 3D printer or you're into 3D printing and wargaming. He's got a bunch of cool stuff on there related to that anyway. Plus, here's a bunch of cool stuff, and I have most of these games. Combat Commander Throws from Kai. I still haven't done that. Here's a Combat Commander ladder tournament. There's an online site for Fields of Fire, so you can check that out as well. Plus, there's YouTube videos, the Fields of Fire Advanced Academy. This is all from Board Games Chronicle, who does great work. The Facebook Reavers and Reformers group. Well, I'm not going to talk about Facebook groups here. Here's a fascinating trailer for Cross Bronx Expressway, so check that out if you want. It's time for some water. All right, so here is what we've all been waiting for, folks. I agree. Danny Zachary says support the developer and buy them. We will get more of these if we buy them, so I would recommend buying them. And they're relatively inexpensive, too. It's not like these things are $70 a piece. All right, so the current charge has been charged, for those who pre-ordered it already, for China's War, a bunch of Combat Commander stuff, Cross Bronx Expressway, and Hubris. Now, they do not have an exact charge date on the next batch of P500 releases yet, but they think it's going to be mid to late October. That batch will include Italy 43, the mounted map for Italy 43, Seljuk, Byzantium Besieged by our friend of the channel, Justiguard. I'm very much looking forward to that. Stalingrad 42, 2nd edition, which I have not ordered because I have the old one. If there is an update, I will probably get it. The Battle for Normandy errata counters, which are on a boat already, and Unconditional Surrender Western campaigns, which I am actually pretty interested in taking a look at. I think that format and topic will play to the strengths of the Unconditional Surrender system. All right, so, and that's it. So what do we got on? We've already talked about all of this stuff. So stuff that's at the printer includes a Distant Plane 4th printing, Ardennes 44, a mounted map, and an update kit for that. The Cuba Libre Calixto Bot update pack. I feel like we've been waiting for this for decades, too. Infernal Machine, the Men of Iron tri-pack 2nd printing. Didn't need that. I have the first one. Mr. President 2nd edition, the update kit for that. Next War Taiwan 2nd edition, which I guess is going to include some improvements. Purgatorio, which is Men of Iron Volume 6. Plum Island Horror 3rd printing. Note, 3rd printing already on this, so that's been an enormous hit. And the expansion for that, more of a bad thing. Going to the printer in late September. CNC Napoleonics Grand Battles. Again, we've been waiting for a long time. The Guerrilla Generation, which is another coin quad, which includes sort of 4 coin mini games. That's probably going to be pretty interesting too, and I'll be happy to play it if I have the opportunity. In final art and proofing that they expect to go to the printer in October include the errata replacement counters, but truthfully, I don't expect it to happen till like January. Coast Watchers from Volco. That's anything that Volco does is worth a look. Silent Victory 3rd printing, The Hunters 4th printing, both very good games. The Weimar Republic, which sounds intriguing, Thunderbolt, and the Thunderbolt Deluxe Edition, for which I have been waiting decades. All right, nothing else has moved up except for the British Way 2nd printing, which is expected to be ready to push the button on in Q1. And we don't have anything added to Q2 for 2026. So, bunch of channels down here at the bottom, including me and Dan and the Armchair Dragoons and the Player's Aid and Beyond Solitaire and everybody. So, be sure to check those things out. Now, let's look at some flair here. The Baltic Empires. This is the near final cover for Baltic Empires. And I gotta say, I think this cover looks great. I think this will pop on game shelves. Here's some Twilight Struggle stuff. Here's some Ark Underworld stuff from Jim Day. Here's some stuff from Joe Dewhurst on a bunch of different games. Here's an update from co-designer Steven Rangazis on Combat Commander Vietnam, which, remember, even I think that has a lot of potential. Here is another Levian campaign game, Henry, about Agincourt, designed by Joe Schmidt. And here's one of the cards, which is, it's one of the cards from that. Imperial Eagles, we got some I, Napoleon stuff here. SAR, which is Paul Hellier's design, and there's reprint tracking. I never go through that. So that is the GMT news, folks. Stuka Joe is here. Joe, thanks for stopping by. I will agree with this, but I do have Nevsky, so I'm not sure if that counts or not. But it takes place in that general area of the Baltic, so it should count for something. All right. So yeah, I really like, even though I think the title is not maybe as big as I would be inclined to make it, but it does pop. I think that cover does stand out really well. It's an interesting looking game too, that we don't see very many games on that topic. All right, so we will resume clipping now. I think we got some British and some Germans, and we still got to do the Western Allied and the Free French counters. Before I can actually play this thing. The map has been set up for at least a month. So, Vincenzo Beretta, thanks for stopping by. All right, so solitaire games. Now, there are, of course, at this point, a lot of games that are designed to be played solitaire. And many of those are just solitaire games, right? There's no co-op option in, say, Field Commander Napoleon or the Hunters, although you can extrapolate one for the Hunters. But there's plenty of games that plenty of us have played solitaire that aren't necessarily designed to be played solitaire. Speaking of which, FS Gaming is GTS. So there's actually a lot. Ty Snowfer has done a decent number of videos on GTS. There's somebody else who has two, and I'm not sure that I remember who that is. You know what, man, set something up and start pushing pieces around. It actually plays very cleanly once you grasp it. And if you set it up and push pieces around, that's usually my advice, and it works for me. I don't know that it'll work for everybody, but that's my recommendation. But there is a fair amount of pretty detailed GTS content on YouTube. Chris Yap is waiting for a table at a new barbecue restaurant here in Santa Fe. So at one point, the best barbecue I had ever had was in New York City. Which I thought was hilarious. And I used that to bust out that voice and, well, that stuff's made in New York City all the time. So Rob Johnson has played everything that isn't designed for solitaire that he has. And if you, Lee Forrester is the name I was thinking of. Yes, thank you. And Prophetus Albion mentions the History Gamer. Okay. I don't know that there's much question about the assault rules at this point, but the assault rules have been the V2, the second edition assault rules for like the last 6 games. So I don't really feel like that's much of a problem at this point. It's only a problem if you want to do Market Garden, and it is only a problem until an updated Market Garden game comes out. So, I mean, you may, Kevin Featherly, Indy Nidell might be right about this. So, and Lee Forrester has done some stuff with TCS as well. No, I had completely forgot about this, Brant. But it is topical, so if you have not yet participated in the solo/solitaire wargame survey, by all means, hop over to armchairdragoons.com and check that out. All right, good to scotch. I'm not sure I knew that. I've never met Lee. I have met Ty, and I played GTS, in fact, with Ty. Ty is great. Lee Forrester I have never met, to my knowledge. So, what kinds of games do we play? If you play everything solitaire, maybe you're the wrong person to ask, right? But if you play games solitaire, that aren't like dedicated solitaire games, what kinds of games do you play? Now, obviously, there's some games that just don't solitaire well, or that you're like missing a huge part of the experience. Victory Games Vietnam is the classic example. There are other examples as well. Any game with a huge quantity of hidden information, chances are it's not going to solitaire that well. So, Danny Zachary reminds us to please hit the like button. Thank you, Danny. Chitpole. So, certain mechanics, of course, do lend themselves to solitaire play. An example would be Chitpole. I think the BCS activation system actually lends itself very well to solitaire play. I think OCS is okay at solitaire play. But, you know, I could see maybe some folks getting stuck in the reaction phase or something like that. Because of the randomized activations, GCACW is excellent solitaire, and also because of the randomized activations, GBACW is pretty good solitaire as well. Wise Guy History, I don't remember Nathan doing tutorials, but I know he's done at least a couple of videos on GTS, and those are worth your time. I will vouch for Wise Guy History any day. So now where we get sticky, okay, on solitaire games, like I said, is hidden information. And if it's a card-driven game, the cards are probably part of that hidden information. Maybe that's important to you, and maybe it's not, but I'll get into that. Well, highly, you know, I am actually comfortable with this. I have found in a number of examples, including the coin games that I have solitaired, I generally prefer not to play with the bots. I will just play all the sides. I'm okay with that. I prefer to play both sides in Empire of the Sun too, and that definitely is hidden information. And I think it works fine. And there's the Stuka Joe solitaire method for a bunch of card-driven games works well. I have no problem with it. I just don't feel like I normally need to have that extra layer of mechanism to prevent myself from losing, right? Because I'm going to lose either way, right? The good news is I'm going to win either way. The untried units, yeah, that counts as hidden information. The untried units in Invasion America, Operation Typhoon, the Victory in the West series, all that stuff. Random movement, that's a good point too. Not only are the so if anybody here hasn't watched any of my GCACW stuff or played GCACW, the way it works is you do some stuff at the beginning of the turn, and then you have this kind of general, I forget what it's called, but there's like this general activation phase. And in that activation phase, unless it's like the first turn of the scenario and like one side or the other gets the initiative automatically, you roll for every initiative. You roll a 2d6, and whoever rolls highest gets to activate something. And Confederates, in some of the games, Confederates win all ties. In other games, it's more complicated than that. In the later war games, it tends to be more complicated than that, as it should be. So, and then you are going to pick your unit, your leader, to activate, and then you are going to roll 1d6 for infantry or 2d6 for cavalry. There are a couple of modifiers to this, and that is going to determine the number of movement points that you have, which in GCACW, the way it tends to work, you usually are going to move on roads. You're not often going to move cross-country unless you're absolutely desperate. So it generally means that that's the number of hexes that you're going to move, but that also might mean you'll be going out of your way to follow the road, right? TCS is another one like that. And in this case, though, it is kind of hidden information with the orders as well. I think I have an eyelash in my eye that just developed. In this case, it's the written orders, the op sheets that function as its kind of solitaire facilitating thing, because you're stuck with those op sheets. Now you can always cheat at solitaire too, right? But if you do, I mean, I don't care. I think that's a lesser crime than cheating when you're playing with other people. I guess there's that. GCACW does have a 1 hex minimum move as well, so. But zones of control also have an effect in that too. So it's a little more complicated than I have just explained, but I have videos on it, so go watch those things. Civil War Brigade series has written orders, and Line of Battle does as well. And I have never played any of the regimental sub-series games, but I imagine that those have inherited some kind of written orders mechanism from CWB. So, This is actually another good point Drew mentions. He says that it isn't always fun, but for a lot of games, one side has so little to do that solitaire works. Normandy, I think he's talking about the SPI Normandy here. Dawn of the Dead, I have the vaguest idea. I've never played that. Exactly. I think if you're cheating, you're just wasting your time too, as much as you are disappointing everybody else at the table. And this is a good point. You can write orders, right? You don't have to not have written orders just because they're not in the rule book. You could totally do this. And that does kind of add to the immersion value too, is like, I must take this, this hex with this objective or whatever. I think that's actually kind of cool. I've done that sometimes. Perigi mentions, what do you mean not eligible for Brandt's survey? This is a solitaire game. Why would it not be eligible? Struggle for the Galactic Empire. Joe Miranda designed from Decision. I like this game quite a bit. It is the most Asimovian Galactic Empire in gaming that I have encountered. All right, what do we get for time? We're doing great on time. So mechanics that make solitaire play either easier or harder, I guess. I also have tended, I think I've said this already. So in Coin, while I guess it is kind of a card-driven game, the cards are very important. The cards are not hidden. There is one card that is active at any given time, and there is one card that is on deck at any given time, and it's face up, so everybody knows that it's coming. So you're going to be, honestly, John, for this really to fulfill its potential, I think that's going to take longer than either you or I are going to be alive, to be completely honest. But maybe I'm wrong. I did actually plug some stuff into Notebook LM to kind of ask rules questions for, and that particular tool is good for that. At least it could tell me, hey, is this mentioned anywhere in the book? Because I can't find it. No, and it was able to tell me, no, there's no rule for this. So that's useful. So I do think that this is a general issue with those three CSS games, Tinian, Saipan, and Guam. I think these games, the system is pretty similar to GTS, which also is chit pull, which means it's also pretty good solitaire. And in every way that affects that solitaire ability, it is identical to GTS. So it solitaires just as well as GTS does, which solitaires very well. But I do think that the Tinian, Guam, and Saipan are games that solitaire. I think they are better solitaire games than they are played opposed, to be completely honest, for exactly this reason. Because it's going to be this like massive grind as the Americans try to dig the Japanese out of these fortified positions and foxholes and pillboxes and caves and all that stuff. So I think that most wargamers are probably not going to have a fabulous time playing the Japanese in that. I played the Japanese, and I cannot say that I was terribly engaged playing the Japanese in Saipan, and I volunteered to play the Japanese. So Brandt says that Liz wanted to reframe the focus onto historical games and stay away from fantasy and sci-fi. I guess that's understandable. I can get behind that motivation. Kai Sharp says, one thing they like to do is prepare a series of attack plans before the setup and the game starts, and then roll randomly as to which attack plan to use. That's actually a pretty cool idea. You could totally do that. In D-Day games, not all D-Day games really support this, but Fortress Europa did, and the Mighty Endeavor did, and several other games that are like Normandy and or mid-1944 to the end of the war type games do support the idea of invading in different places. And that's one of the reasons I like those games, is that particular sandboxy element. I think you end up finding that invading at Normandy is generally the best idea, but you can also be creative about it and see what happens. So, I don't know. Well, it's your survey. You survey what you want. I have no problem with that. Now, all the coin games have solitaire bots, actually, at this point. I think that wasn't originally the case. I think that Andy and Abyss and possibly Cuba Libre didn't have bots for all the factions. but they all have bots at this point. Gandhi, however, has a different kind of bot. That's the game that included, from the get-go, the cart where there's like a deck for the solitaire system. And actually, I do think that's probably an improvement, but I still have not played Gandhi. I probably should. I should do so and make videos about it. What about that? Texas Roadhouse is not barbecue. I agree. You know, at Winterfest last year, I think this was last year, we tried our best to get into friggin' Texas Roadhouse, and that place was friggin' packed every night in Strongsville, Ohio, and I don't know why. I mean, it's fine. I don't hate Texas Roadhouse. It's also not barbecue. Oh, Jonathan Dyer. I do not have Colonial Twilight, and I am not that intrigued by it. I would play it if given the opportunity, but I have not had the chance. Apparently, the next card isn't revealed in that one. And there is some variation in the method between some of the coin games, but a lot of them are very similar in every other respect. So Vincenzo Beretta says, isn't it strange that in the AI era, the AI in Wargames still sucks? So if we're talking about computer war games, then yeah, it generally does. I don't think that technology has really been leveraged yet in video games. I expect that it will be. I suspect that we're going to see somebody doing like AI-generated dialogue in games, but nobody's done that yet. These games take years to develop, and this is pretty new technology. Oh, is it? I was not aware of that. Their steak is acceptable. It is better than the steak from Bob Evans. So, John MC says there's a video of solo play of Bayonets and Tomahawks by Joel Toppin. Valley of Tears. Oh, Paul Dang, I could sort of see this. I have not played Valley of Tears, so I cannot vouch for this. But I have seen other folks say that it might be better solitaire because the Israelis are going to run over the opposing forces. This is true too, and I think Volko has made this recommendation, is to say, hey, I don't really know what I'm doing in this game of Fire in the Lake, so I'm going to see what the bot would do. And you know, it's probably not the worst thing I could do. So this would be fabulous. Notebook LM would be the tool I would use for this, to be completely honest. I would... I have not done this, and I probably won't do this, because I do not have a Gauss game on the horizon at the moment. The next Gauss game that will come out is Over the Rhine. I don't expect to see that until next year. But it's not a bad idea to plug it into. Notebook LM is the right tool for that. It's like you upload your whatever it is, and it parses through that and can then answer questions about it or provide summaries or whatever. As long as you understand the limitations of the tool, and are prepared to say, that looks like bullshit, it can be legitimately useful. All right. So the Japanese, I think, because of the scale, I do think the Japanese are more engaging to play. I hope so. I bought the thing. They should be more engaging to play in Blood Reef Taro than they are in Saipan. Remember, Saipan, Guam, Tinian are at the company level, whereas ASL is at the squad level. So I don't know if Liz is prejudiced against sci-fi games, but I can tell you I have never discussed sci-fi games with her, so maybe she is. I don't know. Drew says really tactical games are often worth soloing as a learning experience. Now, this, of course, is one of the reasons that leads me to solitaire games in the first place, is because, hey, we've got a Gauss game coming up. I'm going to set something up and work through some stuff and see. And even if I'm not playing a full scenario, who cares? It's still solitaire play, right? I think I have come around on that. I think that whatever you are doing with a game is basically playing that game. You are providing yourself with entertainment. Maybe not reading the rules. That's up to you, I suppose. I'm not sure who has made this spurious claim. Danny says that Cuba Libre has an iPhone app. I didn't know that. I'll tell you what. If somebody would come up with a good bot for Here I Stand, I think that would be a tremendous asset to that game, because that's the game that you really want all 6 positions filled to play. Vijayanagar too. I don't have Vijayanagara. Brant says he wonders if there would be much of a market for a batch of plans or orders like Kai Sharp is talking about, like a book of orders for something like GTS games. I think this would, I mean, I'm not sure I have a clear idea of what you're suggesting here, Brant, so maybe that's worth a future podcast topic. Pericalypsis says, is ASL an enjoyable experience? Are there aspects of ASL that make it difficult to solo? So, there are hidden units. There is a hidden units rule. It's a thing that can appear in an ASL scenario, but you just don't pick any of those scenarios. There is also a full set of solitaire rules for ASL, which I have and which I do not see the need to use. What it can do is kind of generate like algorithmically generated scenarios for you, and I guess that's useful. But I think ASL Solitaire is pretty okay. It does kind of assume there is technically hidden information in the game. I don't think it is a tremendous problem to just play both sides, however, in ASL. Goss Jeff T is the Grand Operational Simulation series initiated by Joe Youst over at Decision Games. There are 5 games in the series out now. Atlantic Wall and Vok Dam Rhine. These are different games completely. 99.9% different from the SPI originals. There's also Hurtgen Forest, which is the smallest of the big games, and Lucky Forward, which is Patton's Lorraine campaign, which looks pretty cool. I haven't played that yet. There's also the mini Goss game that they put with strip down rules in World at War magazine. That's Hanut, or Anu, I suppose. But it's an interesting game. Concealment is a problem, but ASL has a perfectly adequate mechanism for dealing with concealment. You just don't look in the stack, and there are penalties to shooting up concealed guys. So I don't really have an issue with that personally. Vincenzo says that Fire in the Lake has the basic bots, but there's also a more dedicated one that you can buy separately. That is true. I have not purchased the Fire in the Lake solo bot, the Trung bot, I believe it's called. But for coin games, I will just generally play the different sides. There's really no hidden information there, so who cares, right? Kevin Featherly uses Notebook LM also to ask questions about rules, but yes, you have to just be careful because it can make mistakes, just like we can. All right, so Perfidious Albion says ASL is awesome for solo play, and there's you can play it yourself. You can do this with Starter Kit too. Iggy Crichtel likes the Solitaire Starfleet battles. That's also not a bad idea, to be completely honest. McKenna, thanks for stopping by. Your presence here is appreciated. The Tabletop's Edge, Doug, thanks for stopping in as well, said that Shelfside did a video where they had an AI try to teach someone to play Brass Birmingham, a very popular game that I know absolutely nothing about, and a human teach another. The AI did very poorly. It's worth a watch. The AI will not necessarily comprehend pedagogical challenges. Let me put it that way. Where a human instructor might. So that is probably fun to watch, but then I would have to watch video on Brass Birmingham, which I don't want to do. This is absolutely true. Perfidious Albion, I did not misunderstand you here at all, I don't think. Blood Reef Tarawa is super high intensity. It is quite high density for ASL. It is big, it is long, it will take a long time. Well, fortunately, this particular hooligan knows McKenna, so... And yeah, she runs the booth at Origins, pretty much, so... I mean, yeah, I would, if you're new to ASL, then yeah, absolutely start with Starter Kit, whether you're playing it solitaire or not. Maltov Cockatiel says that before Fantasy Flight turned greedy, they had a fantastic app for Descent 2nd edition that allowed you to play the game solo or co-op. That sounds attractive. I've never played Descent. I've heard good things about it. It was somewhat popular, I guess. And this is, I'm not... Fantasy Flight got bought, right? So, I will tell you that there was a time when I was interested in the occasional Fantasy Flight product, and that day is long past. Let me put it that way. Danny points out, as Stigler has probably already pointed out in the chat several times, and I have missed it, that you can play remotely, right, on Vassal. And, not every game is great on Vassal, but some of the games that aren't great on Vassal are good on Tabletop Simulator, for example. So there's board game Rally the Troops is what I'm thinking of. But there are several online platforms for playing this stuff. So you do have that option. I mean, yes, I agree. Actually. This is true. Starter kit number... Starter kit number 4 does introduce concealment into ASL Starter Kit. I will say that. But concealment is not hidden, right? It's not really... It's a status that is placed on a stack that you don't necessarily... I mean, it affects the stacks, how easy it is to hit the stack because they're concealed. But there's something there. Maybe it's just more concealment markers. You can have dummy concealed stacks too. And that you can't do solitaire. But, not every game gives you enough... Not every scenario gives you enough solitaire markers to do that in the first place. All right. Perfidious Albion says the solo rules for ASL are really weird and don't really model how an opponent... This is true. It plays very different. Thus, if you are playing with the ASL Solitaire rules, which was its own set, released as its own product, however long ago that was. And I actually do have it, but I've never tried to use it. It plays very differently than regular ASL. I will absolutely tell you that. Perigi says there's free apps for Fire in the Lake and Red Dust Rebellion. I really would like to play Red Dust Rebellion. Vincenzo mentions Aaron Armor. Has a fantastic system to simulate how you aren't even sure where your units are. That sounds great and very realistic, actually. I mean, I would just go check on your whatever app store you got. There's probably more of these available for Apple or iPhones than Android, but I could be wrong. Who knows? John Friesen, thanks for stopping by. We are officially backed up on the chat here, folks. So Asmodee purchased Fantasy Flight, and didn't somebody else buy Asmodee and then offload all their debt onto Asmodee? So Asmodee is basically hosed. Board Game Arena is another one, that's true. Well, like I said, I would pay money for bots for Here I Stand, whether they were digital or not. FFG had several games, says Chris George. Welcome to the show. Welcome back to the show. By the end, with apps, Return to Dark Tower, which, I played the original. I did not own Dark Tower back in the day. I did, however, buy a copy of Dark Tower at a garage sale for something like $2, and I never touched it, and a couple years later, it went into an Origins auction where I sold it for something like $60. And it would have gone for twice that or more had I actually verified that the tower worked. I did not. John Madison is here. Thanks for stopping by, John. Sky Crane is the app for Red Dust Rebellion. Stacking Limit reminds us to hit the Noble Knight ad. We're a couple minutes early for that. We will be getting to it soon, however. No, I totally understand. It's the same thing that happened when TSR bought SPI, right? Or however SPI was in fact acquired. All right, Chris Yap, thanks for stopping by. We'll catch you on the flip side. Danny Seckery says it's time to watch the video, and I'm caught up to the chat. How about that? So it is, however, time to hear from our good friends at Noble Knight Games, the official sponsors of the Counterclipping Show. There is an affiliate link in the video description, so be sure to use that if you are shopping through Noble Knight Games for stuff you were going to buy anyway. I'm not telling you to spend money irresponsibly. I'm just saying if you were going to spend the money anyway, you might as well make sure that I get 5% of that in store credit, which will turn into something nice, and which will eventually turn into another giveaway or sometime around the holidays this year. All right, and we'll have... That reminds me to mention, I should have put this in the news too and didn't put it in my notes. Show 250 is coming up, folks, and we will be giving something away. I'm not sure it'll be enormous, but we will be giving something away on episode number 250. That's going to be a couple months from now, but I figured I might as well mention it because I thought of it today. Let's hear from Noble Knight.
Here at Noble Knight Games, we've been carefully growing the world's largest selection of board games, role-playing games and dice, war games, miniatures and paints, card games, and more. Going on 25 years now. Our rustic castle contains more game and hobby goodness than you can shake a stick at. Complete with careful packaging and the finest customer service the land can provide. You can buy, sell, trade from anywhere in the world, just like nature intended. Noble Knight Games.
So thanks and a big shout out to Noble Knight Games, who are not only the official sponsor of the Counter Clipping Show, but their ad has allowed me to refill my glass of scotch. So we are now once again good. And as Stack Limit mentioned, and as a couple of people have done so, please do like the video if you haven't done so already. So, DCC, I have played DCC, and I had a fabulous time playing it. I played it once at a convention. It was a funnel scenario, and I had a great time. DCC, for those who don't know, is Dungeon Crawl Classics, which is kind of a D&D clone, but it is one of the D&D clones that actually has its own things to say. And I do have the book, the main rule. There's a million products for it. I have the main rule book because they were selling the main rule book at Origins for $5. And I could not say no to that. I think that I bought two of them like a couple of years ago, $4 or $5, and gave them away. Or gave one of them away. I think I gave both of them away, actually. And then I bought it again at $4 or $5, unfortunately. So Doug's a big fan. Doug, we got there. You know what, man? I don't even want to start talking about this, or I will spend the entire rest of the show talking about this. Dungeon Crawl Classics does use its own weird dice, like D5s and stuff, and you can actually buy a set of them that will give you the D5 and the D24 and all the weird ass dice. And I had to have at least one of those. DCC is generally considered an old school-ish system, but it's also there's kind of two directions in which the old school movement in role-playing games is diverging. Hexy is here. Hexy, thanks for stopping by. And one of which goes in a really minimalist direction, and examples of this might include Shadowdark or Mothership as examples. Yet there are other OSR games that are the opposite, right? And DCC is one of those things. It's got quite a bit of crunch to it. Another game that I would describe as old school is Adventures Dark and Deep. If you are a fan of the Greyhawk Grognard YouTube channel, that's Joe Block. I've bought the books. They are very nice. They are print-on-demand hardcovers from... I got the hardcovers anyway. Maybe there's softcovers too. Hold on, I'll show them to you. All right. So this is the second edition Adventures Dark and Deep books that... Folks, I gotta tell you, the time to buy a new computer is coming real fast, because that was another pants shitting computer crash. Anyway, I didn't freeze. The whole computer crashed. And, you know, I'm happy that it reboots that fast. But no, I don't need more bandwidth. I'm on fiber internet now. I got fiber on Friday. It's held up really well so far. So if anybody is noticing hitching or anything, other than my computer took a shit, I've got one of the bad Intel processors, and I'm pretty sure my wife does too. And both of our computers are flaking out right now. Mine has been flaking out for the better part of 9 to 12 months, and hers has started flaking out. Adventures Dark and Deep. They are these huge books. These are print on demands through Drive-Thru RPG. This is what I think of this as. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about this. What I think of this as is the lost AD&D 3rd edition that we never actually got. That's what this is like to me. So I will put them down now before I herniate a disc. So, all right. So let's catch up on the chat again. OS2, how about that? Well, I would personally love to see a new episode of Whiff, Doug, but, you know, you gotta have the time. This kind of shit's a lot of work, I can tell you that. So... all right, John Favaro, welcome to the show. Well, I'm a little higher than a 386 at this point, but no, there's a whole generation of Intel processors, i6s, i7s, and i9s that what the fuck? Anyway, that just clipped out again, but at least it didn't reboot. So it's really time to take these things in, but I think what it's going to end up being is that you can't just switch from Intel to AMD normally. It's a different chipset. So I'd have to do a replacement motherboard and processor, and that is $500, something like that. Or, I mean, you can spend as much as you want. You know what, man? I was the dickhead who went and said, you know, I like Intel better, and went and bought this computer that was an Intel processor, and Intel boned me. So for the next computer is going to be another AMD processor. So I am pretty sure it's not memory. I have high quality memory in this machine. I have 32 gigs of RAM. I should have known when they told me I can't actually support 128 gigs of RAM, because even though it's supposed to. So, yeah, Doug has had a big change at work, eating all the time for the channel. Whiff is still on the table. He'll have an update video out in mid-October. So Doug's got a very busy real life. Let me put it that way. So I don't feel like I need a new video card, to be completely honest. I am thrilled. I thought about, and we might see a fundraiser video, which means I'm, me selling some more war games, but I also kind of want to go through the stuff that I have on the table and see what I want to keep. There's definitely stuff on there that I know I'm keeping, and I just have to find a place to reshelve it. I'm going to dump some of the 3W stuff, for example, but not all of it. There's a couple things in there that I definitely want to keep. There's also some World War I stuff that I put it on the table and have reconsidered since then, and I'm going to end up keeping that. So, you can have an AMD processor and an NVIDIA video card. That is not a problem. This is, not quite. This is a fairly high-end computer. I've got like 12 terabytes of hard drive space, 4 of which are SSDs. It has an excellent video card. Probably the first thing I will explore is replacing the processor and probably the motherboard too with a non-fucked processor. So power supply can be an issue. That's not the problem here, though. I can tell you that it's the processor. This thing has been flaky for a long time. There is a list. You'll have to look this up, William Aarons, to see which specific processors are affected. But if you, and you know what, I think the brand new chips that they're making now maybe aren't affected, but you're going to have to check, to be honest. I didn't know this. And then I bought the computer and I'm an idiot. So what can I say? Doug, as you know, we do not have like a strict topic policy here at Ardwulf's Lair. So we're doing okay. Halfway. It might be all halfway to the new $3,000 supercomputer, the HAL 9000. Yeah, good call, Doug. Doug says that the best system to solo tactical air combat, and Doug would know, is Fighting Wings by JD, the Legendary series by JD Webster, most of which came out from Clash of Arms, maybe all of which, I'm not 100% sure. I don't have any of those games. But I don't have that many air games either, to be honest. I have games with air. I have games in which air is a really important thing, like Flat Top. But I don't have very many, like, just air combat games. I've got Air Force and Dauntless from Avalon Hill. I've got Luftwaffe, which is a classic, even if it is ancient. It's the kind of game that a lot of people cut their teeth on as wargamers back in the early 70s. I've got the World War I Ace, whatever it's called, the Greg Smith solitaire game. That looks amazing, actually. You know what? This is probably going to be cool. I've never played Pandemic. I think I filled out one of those online surveys one time, and what board game should you play? And I think I got Pandemic, and I immediately said, all right, that was some kind of browser crash. I'm not sure what's going on with that, but here we are, folks. Cryptal is playing Fighting Wings now. Pretty Albion says Speed of Heat is awesome. RAF, that's a good point. I do have both RAF from Decision and the Battle Over Britain, which is another earlier Butterfield design. But, you know, the kind of computer user I used to be was the kind of person that would never have considered a Mac. Not because I ever particularly thought Macs were crappy. They're not. It's high quality hardware. The operating system is solid. There's a lot to recommend Macs. But the fact is that I sometimes put more stuff in the computer, like a new hard drive or something like that. And that's not something you can really do. That's not something you can really do with a Mac. So I have always just stuck with PCs, and I'm in the PC ecosystem and all that stuff. And there is some level of inertia there keeping me with the PC. But the kind of computer user I have been for the last couple of years, a Mac wouldn't be a terrible idea. That said, they're also more expensive, and that's always a consideration too. So it might be an early night. I don't want to crash again, because then I'll have to come back in after recovering from the crash and explain to everybody how the show's not working out tonight. So thank you, Lee Grant, for the contribution to the new computer and or motherboard. It is much appreciated. Oh God, Microsoft as ecosystem engineer. So I've got Microsoft support stories, man. So anyway, are we caught up on the chat? Mo from Mo's Game Table is here. While I was down, I suppose. The Air and Armor videos are a great asset to those learning Air and Armor. So Wing Leader, I'll agree with this. Actually, having played Wing Leader, I think Wing Leader is an original Air game. That said, I'm not sure. I didn't really like it, but I wouldn't. I'll give it three strikes, and it's only at one strike right now. John Madison, thanks for stopping by. Hopefully, we'll see you again soon. At least the scotch is getting drunk. How much of this do I have left? That's about a pour. Not a huge pour either. I can think of no good reason not to finish it tonight at this rate. Yeah, and the irony here, Bob, is that I went out of my way to say at the beginning before the show, I said, you know what? I should restart the computer. I should have a nice clean boot so that I can start the show on a clean boot, and it has crashed on me twice during the show. That is bullshit. So the fall assembly from the Armchair Dragoons, as previously discussed, is coming up. So check that out at the Armchair Dragoons website. I'm sure it is a delightful event. I'm just not going down to North Carolina this year. It did feel weird, but I kind of thought it was interesting the way it handled it, where it is kind of from the side, and it feels super weird. But I thought that was interesting. I did not have a great experience with it, but there are maybe other reasons for that in that particular session. I've only played it once. I've actually heard Pandemic Rome is cool, but GBOH, it really depends on which GBOH game you're talking about. Well, let me rephrase that slightly. So the solo ability of GBOH varies by game. Some of the later games, like Hoplite, are actually chit pull, which is a great solitaire mechanism. Some of the other games earlier in the series are not. So, I should probably try Pandemic. I think it would probably be fun. Garrison Venn, thank you for the contribution for the new Mac. I doubt it, but I won't say it is impossible at this time. If nothing else, maybe it won't crash on me all the fucking time, and that would be great. So, I also have, and my wife and I have both have these, and I think we have blamed some computer problems on these. We both have ultra-wide monitors, and it would be inconvenient for me to post a photo of my monitor at this time. And not every piece of software supports ultra-wide monitors particularly well. I had problems with Starfield, for example, on the ultra-wide monitors. So, there's a million different kinds of Pandemic here at this point, too. Stegler, I'm just going to say, I think we should defer to Doug on this. I'm just saying. I am happy to defer to Doug on these matters. So, well, if it's the processor that's the problem, it doesn't really matter if it's a Linux machine. I've run Linux before and would be happy to run Linux again. And frankly, the one piece of software, and yeah, I do play the occasional computer game. But frankly, the one piece of software that is most demanding and that I use the most and that I wish I had more RAM for is Inkscape, because I can have thousands or tens of thousands of elements of objects on a given screen. And, it doesn't run super fast all the time at 32 gigs of RAM, which is a respectable amount of RAM. So I would 100%. I don't know. I'd have to think about it. I do have a gaming laptop, but it is not new. But honestly, for the amount of computer gaming that I do I care? I'm not sure I do. So I am extremely leery of the legacy mechanic personally, but because I'm uncomfortable with defacing the game. Let me put it that way. So, again, I defer to Doug on all such matters of air games. For those who don't know, Doug is a professional pilot. They pay him to fly large aircraft. So I will defer to his opinion and experience in this way. And frankly, my dad was a commercial pilot too. So this ultra wide is, I don't know, man. It's about that wide. Okay, that's the best I can do without putting a picture of it up. So, I mean, it's a nice ultra-wide monitor, but not everything works happily with ultra-wide displays. But like just like basic Windows stuff that's just running in a window should have no problem. So that is not, in fact, the problem. I even had Obsidian crash on me the other day, which is unheard of. And I actually lost data. It actually blew apart a markdown file. So, anyway. I do, I haven't been noticing that Gary Grigsby's War in the East 2 has been on sale fairly regularly lately. I think the retail price is $80, which is expensive, I'm not going to lie. Although it is not more expensive than a comparable board war game would be. But I forget the actual dimensions on this monitor. It is big. It is a big Sony, I think it's a Sony. So, it's a nice monitor, and we were blaming that for some of the weird problems we were having, and I think it's the friggin' processors. So, I gotta tell you folks that the multiple computer crashes have taken the steam out of my enthusiasm for talking about solitaire games at the moment. But I will say that I have two things that I want a solitaire set up on the table at the moment. One of which is this thing, the Italian campaign. So I'm going to resume clip in the counters. The other of which is Barbarossa Army Group North, which has recently arrived. So here's the thing. For video gaming, yes, it is. It just is, okay? However, 99% of the time I spend sitting in front of this computer doing stuff is not spent video gaming. It's spent doing stuff with Inkscape or Excel or, whatever, or Obsidian lately. And for that type of like productivity work, multiple monitors is just also flatly better. So I somewhat regret. I could get a KVM switch, I guess, and have like Dr. Evil have 17 monitors, and switch back and forth between the gaming monitors and the productivity monitors. But that does seem like a great deal of trouble. So, well, in fairness, I think Intel has been pretty reliable until this latest clusterfuck that they have forced everybody to endure. That has one of their shitty broken processors. So, and for work, I have multiple monitors for work, and then I have this huge thing. I have one monitor for this computer, which is this big ultra wide thing. And to be completely honest, I think it would be easier to deal with multiple monitors, because then I could say, hey, I want to stream. Just show or share the screen, share this monitor. And it's easier than having to deal with sharing individual windows and stuff like that. So it would be a lot easier, and I would be able to like set different windows up, and it would just be easier to deal with all around. So if you are mostly using your computer for video gaming, then I think an ultra wide monitor might be a fabulous idea. And I really probably should play more video games. But for every other application, I don't think there's a qualitative difference between a huge ultra-wide monitor like I got and 3 good monitors that are about the size of the one you can't see, which I think is a 32-inch LCD 2K panel. And this monitor is 2K, not 4K. If I had 3 monitors, I would 100% do this. I would easily get use out of this in this configuration. If I, had 3 monitors and at least one of them had the ability to rotate 90 degrees and be in portrait mode, I would totally use that. Oof. In my opinion, Flat Top is most in need of a human referee, but I have played it refereed and it's a great experience. Multiplayer games, not named Flat Top. I have already mentioned one. Here I Stand is an obvious choice, because one reason is because it's shitty if you don't play it with 6 people. I'm being a little more emphatic than is really justified here, but It's a far better experience with 6 people than it is with any other number of players. I have not tried the 2-player variant. Maybe it's great. Who knows? But with any number other than 2 or 6, it is not nearly as good or compelling a game as it should be. So I think that's an obvious candidate. The Napoleonic Wars is another one. Although I have different feelings about that because of the topic. I think there are legitimate concerns about the historicity of a multiplayer game on the Napoleonic Wars. And this applies to every single example that I can think of. So Napoleonic Wars, which is, again, a great game. Empires in Arms, which is a legendary game that I still haven't really played. Napoleon's Imperium from Compass and Andrew Rowland. These are all solid games, but you're going to lose some historicity by making that Napoleonic era multiplayer, I think. Because as much as a lot of the nations changed sides from time to time, you can do that mechanically rather than having a player in that position. I think the ideal number of players for a strategic level Napoleonic game, frankly, is 2. Frankly. Have I played solo most recently? Barbarossa Army Group Center, actually, was the most recent thing that I've actually played. Army Group North is one of the scenario maps is set up under Plexi in the game room, but I haven't actually punched the counters yet because I'm still working on this. Because I'm talking to you fine people, I'm not getting counter clipping done, which is something I've noticed. I haven't been clipping it nearly as much during the streams either. So, and we got some British guys here. If I can just finish clipping this thing, I totally will play it. Perigi says that there is a solo mode in John Company, which is another game that I would actually really like to play. It is a game about the East India Trading Company, basically. Very interesting looking game. I would love to play it. And I'll tell you what, with 6 people who are on board with whatever faction they are playing, Here I Stand is an amazing experience. With any other number of people, or with people who have no idea what they are doing, then it is a less amazing experience. Let me put it that way. All right, it is. Yeah, we'll give it a couple more minutes here. I will also note that depending on the personalities of the players, not every faction is going to work for every player in Here I Stand. I think that's obviously true. I, for example, do not play well with the Habsburgs or the French. I think they are boring. I think, or the Turk, but I've never played the Turks. I feel like the Turks are going to play that way. I think the most interesting factions to play are more or less tied between the Protestants and the papacy, and then a third place is the British, which I think are actually pretty interesting, because basically you have to get an heir for Henry. That's kind of the goal there. Perigi says that the stack gatherings, they always have 1 or 2 full 6-player players of John Company. Yeah, like I said, I'd love to play it. 24 by 48 is a really good size. However, I will point that out. $50 seems high, considering that I bought 4 sheets from Amazon. Now, I don't know what the prices are. I bought these about 2 years ago. I bought a pack of 4 24 by 48 sheets from Amazon for about $120, something like that. So check elsewhere. I went to Lowe's, and I bought Plexi from Lowe's before. That does seem high, but 24 by 48 is a good size. It will fit Holland 44 very nicely, for example. My table is set up to take 4 sheets of 2 by 4 foot Plexi. So I don't know the details, but it wouldn't surprise me if there is a tariff problem with plexiglass now. That is entirely plausible. There's a lot of different things you can actually do. You can get those poster frames. You can get them from Walmart from like 10 or 15 bucks, maybe 20 now. I'm not sure. I haven't bought one in a while. And that's got a really thin plexi, but as long as you're holding the corners down on it, it will totally work. There are options. What I don't like is that thick plastic roll that you like roll over the map and just kind of bubbles everywhere. I hate that stuff. I do not do that. And you know what? If you're playing ASL, I put my ASL maps under plexi, but I have not investigated this at Michael's, and we go to Michael's. My wife is into crafting, so we go to Michael's not terribly infrequently. I thought about this in the lead up to the show today. Is like I have tended to get more into the show and the broadcasting and the talking to people than I have getting massive amounts of counters actually clipped during this show. That's a good point too. I don't like these because they tend to bend, and I don't like that. But you can totally do this. I've got some smaller plexi for like smaller maps and stuff like that too. But then again, I have more plexi than I know what to do with. So I am not sure where plexiglass is manufactured, Vincenzo. So it is very plausible that there is some kind of tariff problem on plexiglass at this time. You generally do want it fairly thin. There is such a thing as too thin, where it will kind of not stay flat. But generally, the thinner the better. I wouldn't go more than about, certainly not thicker than 1/8 of an inch. Let me put it that way. The old mounted ones, I still have a stack of those too. They were supposed to have gone to Noble Knight. They didn't. They stayed home. Along with the large crate of Dragon magazines that didn't go to Noble Knight when we went. So those are now in the Noble Knight disposal pile. Plexiglass is a clear acrylic. Fiberglass is a completely different product. And I also don't have any visibility on domestic or international suppliers on either product. So just so we know, I often call it acrylic. 3mm seems okay. Yeah. 3/32 I think I've bought before, and that works pretty well. You do. So this is the issue with plexi that's too thick. This does not really bother me very seriously, but I also don't have plexi that is too thick in this way. I do have some plexi that is thicker, and you do get this kind of hovering unit effect where it's like above the map. I feel like you kind of want to minimize that, and that's why I say I wouldn't go too thick on the plexi. But if it's too thin, it'll buckle in a way that I don't like. Yep. I've seen people use this. I saw some people playing Labatai at Origins a year or two ago using that fabric, whatever that plastic is, and I'm like, I hate this shit. I hate playing on this. It is terrible. I mean, you can iron it, or you can just use plexi and buy a bottle of Windex to clean it off when it gets gross. So this is true. I doubt that Lowe's or Home Depot carries the stuff that is so thin that you're going to have trouble gaming with it. I don't really feel... I do have some of the glare resistant, let's call it, plexi sheets. And it does help a little bit, but it doesn't help as much as you would like. Honestly, the best... this is a good point. I didn't think of this. Thank you, Dave D'Angelo. Welcome to the show. Says that the cost of plexi went sky high during COVID because they needed it in stores and offices. Absolutely. Prices have yet to come down again. And interestingly, and I don't know why, and this is the thing I've seen on video from other performances, the drummer for the Weird Al Yankovic concert was surrounded by a plexiglass wall. I don't know why, but he was. If that's a thing now, I don't know. But the show was tremendous fun. So we went and saw Weird Al Yankovic the weekend before, the previous, not this past couple of days, but the previous weekend. Great fun. This is good, actually. Good point. The plastic polish, if you got plexi that's like really scuffed up, microfiber cloths are not expensive to get. I buy mine from Micro Center in this giant pack, so I've got a million of them at any given time. Okay. I mean, okay. Well, I wouldn't know. This does make sense, I gotta tell you. But I was like, why is he surrounded by like this plexiglass partition? I'm not sure I understand that. This is true. And I will also point out that broken plexi is very sharp. I have slashed a finger open on a busted piece of plexi in the past. So, and it is easy to overlook. So you should glance at it. And it should have like the plastic coating on both sides so that it doesn't get scratched, getting moved around in Lowe's or wherever it is. So, all right. I cut myself at, I think it was Home Depot. And it wasn't like that bad of a cut where I needed stitches or anything like that, but boy, it was bleeding pretty good. And the staff at Home Depot at the time had no idea what to do. I'm like, do you guys, found somebody after 10 minutes of walking around bleeding. I'm like, yeah, I cut myself on one of those pieces of plexi you got sitting back there. Do you guys have a first aid kit or something? And the kid's like, oh my God, are you okay? I'm like, no, I just need like a Band-Aid or something. You got like a first aid kit? And he's like, I don't know what to do. Let me go get the manager. And he got the manager. It was a big fuss about it. And it was this big spectacle because I cut my finger on the plexiglass. So, I'm like, just give me a band. I mean, I'm not going to sue you. Just give me a freaking Band-Aid so I cannot bleed on my upholstery when I get back in the car. So, yeah, like I said, I bought, this was after COVID. I bought mine on Amazon about 2 years ago, right around the time I finished the table. Pretty close to 2 years ago, dead on. Probably less by a couple of months. I bought, like I said, I bought 4 sheets. It was a 4-pack of 24 by 48 sheets from Amazon. They showed up. They don't fit the table. So I assume it's the table's fault, not because I built the table, and I assume it's not the plexi, which is probably the correct size. So 1/8 inch is good. If you can get like 3/16, that's even better, in my opinion. But I think it's a little harder to find 3/16. It was funny in retrospect, and even at the time, I'm the one bleeding, and I'm laughing at these idiots these Home Depot teenagers running around. The manager comes out. He's 25 years younger than I am, and doesn't know what a first aid kit is. I'm like, wow, this is fantastic. You have a towel, or like a piece of paper towel, or roll of paper towels, or something like that. I mean, I just want to go home now. At this point, I've already cut myself. I wasn't that upset by it, but it was fun. It was more funny than anything else. Let me put it that way. I have cut myself quite a bit worse on other occasions. Let me put it that way. This is true. They don't even let you use the saw anymore. You got to find somebody. This is a good idea. However, this doesn't work on my table because of the way the table is built. Unless I took the sides off, which I guess I could do, but I'm not going to unless I need to. To keep the plexi down, I tend to use painter's tape for this, but I also have these pieces of black malleable. I'll go get one. So I've got these black malleable pipe fittings, okay, and I've got about 20 of them. They are pretty inexpensive, and I spray painted them and use them to weigh down the plexi on the edges, or I can also set them on the map and then throw a piece of plexi on top of them so that the counters are protected from our many, many cats. And that has actually worked pretty well. So this is a good idea, but I tend to use tape for this when possible. So I set the table up so that the plexi fits exactly in the table. So there really is no more than about 1/8 of an inch of play in the plexi moving around. So it's really not much of an issue. David Imperato, thanks for stopping by. This was quite a while ago. This was probably in the days before everybody was carrying a cell phone around, to be completely honest. All right, folks, we have gone an hour and 40 minutes or so, and I think rather than risk yet another computer crash, I think we're going to call the show here tonight because I have also exhausted my level of focus on this topic of solitaire war games. I do think we had some good stuff talked about in the show. Drafting tape is the best stuff, to be honest. That all-time favorite game of solo. I don't know. I'd have to think about it. I would suspect that answer would be Last Blitzkrieg, but I have not actually solitaired Last Blitzkrieg. I've only played it with other people. Good question, though. All right, folks. So I appreciate everybody dealing with the bullshit tonight. And everybody coming out tonight. So don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. Big shout out to the patrons of Ardwulf's Lair, without whom we would not be able to keep doing this, I can absolutely assure you. Don't forget to check out the Noble Knight affiliate link in the video description. That's keeping gaming product moving over here at this time of tribulation, so that is much appreciated as well. Again, if you're going to buy stuff from Noble Knight, use my affiliate link. I get a little bit of a kickback in the form of store credit, and enough people watch this show that's usually a decent amount of money, every decent amount of credit every month. So again, big shout out to the patrons, big shout out to our new patron Mal at the hero level, big shout out to our friends at Noble Knight Games, our official sponsor. Everybody have a great rest of the night. We'll see you all again soon.